Yeah, it doesn't look real good for Joey Porter. They already ruled him out for this week. Coach Austin was basically saying that I think he said Corey Trice and James Pierre are going to be the starting corners for this week. But I mean, it's a chance for Dante.
I was about to say I thought Dante Jackson was going to come back.
He was a full participant.
Yeah, I was looking at the injury report here, and he was limited on Sunday and then a full today. Everybody was a full participant today, except for Justin Fields, who was limited, and Joey Porter Jr. and Ben Skoranek, who we mentioned earlier, who have not practiced either of which all week. Well, and they were the two that got injured in the Ravens game.
Playing on Wednesday, we can already scratch both of them out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying too. I mean, unless something miraculous happens, I don't see either of those guys playing. But I would say, I mean, I've made these bullish calls in the past, so I'm not going to do it. But I would say it's likely that we get the guys that we were missing in the Ravens game back.
We'll get at least 75% of them.
Yeah, 100%. And so with all that, though, I kind of want to talk about some of the Chiefs' injuries as well, because you had mentioned a big name that got hurt for them. Chris Jones got hurt, and he has not practiced all week.
Yeah, once I see him go down in the Titans game, I immediately text the group chat and I said, he's out.
Yeah. And then their left tackle, DJ Humphries, he's been out for a while now, couple games at least, and he has not practiced all week. Chamari Connor, I think he's their nickel corner, has not practiced all week. And Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, has been limited in practice both days. So he has not had a full day of practice, and he's another guy that has struggled throughout. Everybody else has been a full participant. I know Xavier Worthy kind of tweaked his ankle, but he came back in that Texans game. He's been a full participant in both Sunday and Monday practices for the Kansas City Chiefs. So potentially here, and this could be a huge potential, the Chiefs could be without both of their tackles potentially in this upcoming matchup on Christmas.
Yeah, but they still got all their weapons back.
Yes, and this is something to mention that Joe Thuney, their all-pro guard, has been moved out to tackle, and so he's kind of one of those versatile guys that can play all five positions. So they've moved him out there, but that also creates a weakness there in the interior that a guy like Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Ogunjobi, they could exploit that a little bit, maybe on the interior of things rather than Highsmith, who, I mean, I take Highsmith against any left tackle in the league. I think he's always going to come and show up. But Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, though, he's struggled immensely. I mean, he led the league in penalties last year.
You say he's the right tackle, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be watching people react to like the games on YouTube and stuff. Every play, I don't know why the refs don't call it. Every play he's offside. Like it's a false start.
Yeah.
And I'm like he jumps and the ball hasn't even been hiked yet. I'm like, he's like, if I can see it and I'm not even on the field.
Yeah.
Why can't this be called?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure, man. But they also got Hollywood Brown back, and he made he had a solid game. I mean, he had like 4 or 5 catches in the game against the Texans, so didn't really skip a beat on him. They got DeAndre Hopkins. Xavier Worthy has been playing.
Yeah, this is the wrong week for us to have troubles in the DB area.
Yeah, but again, none of these guys. I mean, maybe DeAndre Hopkins, but none of these guys are really. None of them like worry me the way like Zay Flowers did.
Yeah, but Xavier Worthy is a speedster.
Yeah,
and
if you get Dante, well, if you get Elliott back and then Minka's playing deep again,
yeah,
I think that could limit that. And again, it was nice to see Minka get an interception.
I was just about to say we didn't even shout out Minka.
Shout out, man! Because out of the doghouse.
Look, everybody, we all as Steeler fans have been, giving Minka hell this whole season because he hasn't been the same Minka like we saw for the past few years, but he actually showed up.
He had a pass breakup. He had a big tackle. He did a lot in that Ravens game.
The only thing that, the good outweighed the bad. But when I was talking to you, you made it more sense about it because I was talking about the Isaiah Likely touchdown.
Yeah.
And he was covering him, and I guess he stopped and then kept covering his zone.
Well, yeah, because if I'm Lamar Jackson and you're Derrick Henry, essentially what he did was he faked the pitch. Minka's out there in the slot covering Likely. Likely is acting as if he's going out there to block Minka, and then instead of engaging in the block, he just runs past him. Lamar throws it over.
Yeah.
And it's an easy touchdown. And the way that Derrick was running the ball, Minka was like, I need to step up and make a play because he's just running through the first two levels of the defense, and he got burned by it. That's kind of like it just happens.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it.
It's like when you explained it like that, I was like, yeah, there's nothing he can do. So shout out to you, Minka.
Minka balled. So if anybody had good games, I would say in that Ravens game, Calvin Austin, Minka Fitzpatrick, and Alex Highsmith.
And 15. I give it to him.
Skowronek.
Yeah.
The two catches, that's good enough. That's good enough to have a good game.
Enough.
Fair enough. But let's get into this matchup against the Chiefs here. Obviously, 14-1. If they win this game, they lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC. Two-time defending Super Bowl champs. We've talked about them plenty of times on this podcast, just about whether or not we think that they're true contenders. Juwan thinks that they're frauds because I
still think they're frauds. I still do.
I don't think you could be a fraud at 14-1.
Look at the way they're winning.
I get it, but what do they always say in the NFL? Good teams find a way to win, and they find a way to win when it matters the most. They find a way to win, and so I just don't think you can bluff 14-1. I really don't.
Frauds, but we good.
So with that being said, let's get into some of the big matchups here. Would you like to start, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So I kind of want to touch on, again, that offensive line against our defensive line. Something that I've been seeing with the Chiefs is they've been more of a power run team here as of late. You were talking about their receivers. Worthy and Hopkins and Brown, these guys are solid, but especially with Hopkins at this stage in his career, he's not a superstar wide receiver anymore. He's solid, but he's old.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of Kareem Hunt. I'm seeing a lot of power run with Kareem Hunt, kind of keeping the defense honest, so that that he can kind of that Mahomes can kind of chip away at a defense using play action, creating time, because this offensive line is not good. I mean, really, outside of Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith is pretty solid as well. That their interior, their tackles are really bad. And with Joe Thuney getting pushed out to left tackle and that not being his natural position, I already give that edge to Alex Highsmith. And then that opens up the interior for Cam Hayward and Benton and Ogunjobi and those guys, like I mentioned earlier, to eat. If there is any chance of the Steelers winning this game, they have to, and I mean have to, get pressure on Mahomes. They did not get enough pressure on Jalen Hurts consistently. They got to him, but they didn't get to him consistently. And Jalen Hurts carved him up to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. They got to him one good time early, but outside of that Alex Highsmith strip sack, did we see Lamar Jackson really under a lot of pressure?
Nope.
No. So that's got to change. If there is any chance for us to win this game, this defensive line's got to wake up, and they got to dominate. They got to take this Chiefs offensive line's lunch money,
okay?
Because they can and they should, and they're at home. There's no excuses why they shouldn't win this matchup, and they have to do it if they're going to slow down this Chiefs offense.
Okay, so I got two. Okay, so the first one, go back to how we started. Our DBs versus their wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have our third and fourth string DBs against their wide receivers, and it's gonna be a tall task because Mahomes like to throw it. So I know Mahomes can get tricky, and he can run sometimes. He can throw it, but he likes to throw the ball, especially because he got all his weapons back. He's gonna use all his weapons, and he's gonna think this week, oh, the Steelers don't have their top corners, so we can, embarrass them. This week has to be the week that all hands on deck. We have to lock in on every single play. We can't lax on no plays at all. That's one. Two, Kareem Hunt versus our rush defense. Our rush defense has not looked good in the past couple weeks.
No.
And we last week, what was it, 160 yards?
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't count him receiving the ball, those checkdowns and stuff, and guys missing tackles.
Yeah, we still having problems missing tackles, but it wasn't as bad as it was with the Eagles. But our rush defense hasn't been good. I would say for a majority of the second half of the season, it really hasn't been good, and that's something that we have to get on, because Kareem Hunt has been balling, and I don't want it to be another scenario where we get another 100-yard gain for another running back.
Yeah.
So them are my two.
Overweight Kareem Hunt does not need to get 100 yards.
Yes.
And that's been the crutch of this offense, because again, this offensive line's not that good. But they supplement, creating time for Mahomes by making defenses respect their run game. And with Isaiah Pacheco coming back, I know that he hasn't got a lot of looks, but that's also somebody. Like, Pacheco's a speedster. You let him in the open field, and he could burn you for a big one. You know what I mean? It's like you can't sleep on him as well, because I'm sure, after them kind of limiting him since he's returned, it's only a matter of time before they kind of let him loose.
Yeah.
And, last year he was a big catalyst as to why they went on to win the Super Bowl, because he created a genuine run game for that team. And so with the struggles on the offensive line for the Chiefs, stopping Kareem Hunt has got to be number one, but not sleeping on Isaiah Pacheco as well, because he hasn't had a lot of playing time and he's just come off injury. It's only a matter of time before they actually start letting him loose. And when they do let him loose, he's been a guy that's been a game changer for the Chiefs. And
we usually be the team that running backs let loose on and then not do nothing for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So
100%. So let's look at this defense, because this defense here for the Kansas City Chiefs is pretty stout from top to bottom. George Karlaftis, their edge rusher that they drafted out of Purdue a couple years ago, he's really kind of coming to his own. I know Chris Jones hasn't practiced all week, but he's also an older vet, so you never know if they're just kind of resting him until this game, or if he's actually going to be in and out. I would say bank on Chris Jones playing until they say otherwise. He's kind of like a TJ Watt or a Cam Hayward. If he's any kind of banged up, they're just going to sit and rest him for the week and then get him ready for game time. So their linebackers are also really good as well. Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill, those guys have been together for a long time. Tomlin highlighted that in his press conference on Sunday. And then also, the guys in the secondary here, we talked about Connor being out with a concussion. But Justin Reed's been there for a couple years, ever since they let go of Tyrann Mathieu. He's been pretty solid. Trent McDuffie, a young corner that they drafted out of Washington a couple years ago, he's emerged as a really, really good cornerback. So I would think, honestly, our offensive line has really been getting beat up these last couple weeks, and it's been making a huge difference in our offensive production as well. The offensive line has to win at the line of scrimmage, and this front seven for the Kansas City Chiefs is its strength. And if they can, create some time and allow the run game to get going, this secondary, although has some good guys, like I mentioned, can be susceptible in the pass game.
Yeah, you actually right. And one thing about their defense that I'm thinking about, the play of Najee Harris is very critical in this game. And it's also this has to be the contract game, I would think. You have to ball out against this defense. Because, I mean...
It's a Steve Spagnuolo defense, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I'm saying
no
it's
joke.
not. It's no joke, but you want... for Najee, you want that long-term deal.
Let's get into that a little bit, though. So, have you seen the snap count difference between Warren and Najee in this Ravens game?
No, I didn't see it.
I believe, and this is just off the top of my head, I know for a fact Najee only had 16 plays that he played in the entire Ravens game out of 60. Jaylen Warren had, I know, over 40, but I think it was like 44. And so that's all 60 plays, right? So like out of 60 plays, Najee had 16, Jaylen had 44. And we've seen it ever since the bye week. You know, Najee Harris has not even been averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Jaylen Warren's been averaging almost 4.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, but
I know the but when you look at the snap counts and who's been playing,
we can't.
Jaylen Warren's been the guy that's been playing.
I understand that. See, here's my thing with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren can have 2 or 3 good run plays. Consistent. If we run him 3 straight times and he have 3 good run plays, take him out. Or if he's in play action. Because as I'm looking at him, this has been his career. He'll fumble. And that's my only. And that's we always talk about this when we bring up Jaylen Warren, because people want to see him over Najee and want him to be the starting running back, but Jalen's more versatile than Najee. But Najee is that power back that you need in times like this.
Yeah.
That Jaylen Warren's not. And Najee actually takes care of the ball. I know he had a fumble like in the Eagles game, but that's his first this year. He only has 2 in his career.
I know. And I get all that, but I think that in the past what we've seen is, what have the Steelers been drafting in the last couple of years? They've been drafting tackles, right?
Yeah.
Because that's been a huge area of concern for us for, I would say, honestly, since, Villanueva and, they let go of those guys, like right before Big Ben retired around, 2020. But the interior of the offensive line has always been, solid ever since they went out and got James Daniel and Isaac Seumalo. That's always been stout. Right now, the interior of the offensive line is just as young as the exterior. And I feel like it's really hard for these guys to get a push with a slower, less versatile back like a Najee Harris. This season in particular, having 2 rookies starting, one guy in his second year, and I think defenses in their defensive line are kind of caving in and creating less pockets, whereas Najee, lacking speed, isn't really able to get going and hit the hole, whereas Jaylen Warren, very fast, very shifty, is able to hit a small hole and able to take off. And I feel like with Jalen's versatility, with this offensive line, is a better fit for him to get going rather than what I'm seeing for Najee. Because ever since the bye week, I mean, Najee was playing good in that Raiders game. He was looking good in the Jets and the Giants game. But ever since the bye, coming back in this second half of the season, I mean, the numbers have not been good for Najee Harris at all. They've been really bad. And what have we always said? When it starts to get cold outside, Najee Harris starts to get going. Well, it's almost Christmas, and my man hasn't gotten going yet. We have 2 games left on the season. And so for me right now, I think the fumble in the Eagles game was something that really made the coaches look at his production and saw what happened in that instance, and I think that they're starting to make a bit of a transition.